Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, a change to my intended video actually. It's going to have to be planned until tomorrow, because I'm going to be discussing how Tommy Robinson seems to be taking a leaf out of the Donald Trump playbook and maybe trying to kickstart a civil war just to stop him facing court. I think Tommy 10 Names is a little bit rattled. Now let me go over what he's been up to and you decide for yourself. So at the weekend, he tweeted that there's going to be what he calls a peaceful demonstration at 10 Downing Street on October 26th. Now, in reality, no, there won't, because Downing Street is not accessible to the public. They can get within shouting distance, perhaps. Maybe they could do a Steve Bray. They could hold up a big, PA system and play whatever their anthem is over it. That's about it. But he's since tweeted that October 26th will be the most important date in recent times, and that it will be a stand against the tyranny and intimidation of Keir Starmer. So really bigging it up as this like national emergency. So what does he expect to happen, and why October 26th? Well, the date of October 26th is very interesting, because under the normal course of events, you would imagine that Robinson will not actually be able to attend his own protest. Reason being, he's due in court on October 28th, not related to the recent riots. This is about his continued defamation of a Syrian refugee and his contempt of court in pushing the lies in public, even when judges have said, will you stop it? No, I won't. Well, we'll put you in prison then. So he was supposed to attend court in July, literally just a day or two before the riots kicked off, but skipped the country and has been sunning himself around the Mediterranean ever since. There's a warrant out for him, but it doesn't get triggered until early October. Now, the aim of the warrant is to make sure that he definitely attends court on October 28th. So there's every chance that he might be deemed a flight risk for this October date in court and held in custody at some point next month to make sure he attends. So it's just possible that he's arranging this potentially huge demonstration in London again, which won't actually be at 10 Downing Street, in order to accomplish a couple of things. First, persuade the authorities that detaining him in custody will cause another flare-up of violence, and maybe it's best just to let him carry on and hope he turns up at court. Second, to effectively threaten, I don't know, the judge hearing this case in October, because let's be honest, even before the riots, he'd done enough to earn another spell in prison on the contempt of court alone, right? And we know how much Robinson wants to avoid going to prison. It makes him cry, as we saw in that documentary. Mind you, he obviously doesn't want to avoid iron bars on the windows enough to just live his life honestly within the bounds of the laws. Because although Robinson is claiming that his beef is with Keir Starmer, you'd have to be a bit thick to really believe it. This court case began before Starmer even formed his government. It's completely unrelated to Starmer or Labour or even the Tories, because it's got nothing to do with any government. Governments don't prosecute you. It's an independent legal process. What he's actually trying to do is threaten the authorities, but he can't say that. So he claims it's a political process, that he's fighting against a tyrannical government, even though that government didn't exist when this process began. But his followers are susceptible to, the odd conspiracy theory. So that little detail needn't affect his argument. But whatever this gathering is billed at, it is Robinson desperately trying to browbeat the courts and the police into giving him lenient treatment. I hope it does the opposite. But I do think he's worried. Now, just over a week ago, I mentioned Tommy Robinson's behaviour in a short. Now, at the time, it wasn't worth doing a longer video on it, but it might be more relevant now. So someone on Twitter accused him of spreading fake news, they called him a weasel, and wished him to be imprisoned. Now, it makes no odds whether this comment was fair or not. I think most of us would think it probably is fair, but it doesn't matter. If you have a large profile on Twitter or any social media, but particularly Twitter, I think, and you are operating in the political sphere, as Tommy Robinson is, you're going to get a lot of, shall we say, disapproving comments. And I would imagine quite a lot of those comments will be way ruder than this one. Much harsher than this one. Robinson must get loads of comments that disapprove of him, right? And yet, this one must have touched a bit of a nerve, because he actually responded with a voice message. He went to the time and effort of responding with a voice message. And in that voice message, he threatened violence against the person and their partner. Now imagine the number of people who must respond to him negatively on Twitter. He hasn't got time to voice message threats to them all. It would cut out his time on the Sun Lounger, wouldn't it? There was nothing particularly nasty in the comment. It's not anything that anyone wants to be told. It's not nasty. You just shrug it off. I've had far worse than shrugged off. For goodness sake. The fact that Robinson didn't could be a sign he's maybe feeling the heat a little bit. He's feeling a bit worried. And now we have this attempt to put together a massive demonstration the weekend, just 2 days before he's due in court again. The idea of it being peaceful is a bit much to hope for, mind you. I will say there are 3 things which might make it a bit trickier for Tommy Temnames to get a big demonstration. He had a huge demonstration in London in July. Might be more difficult this time. Maybe, maybe not. Let's have a think. So the first difficulty he may have is in the wake of the way people are ending up in prison from the riots, I'd say it might put some supporters off. Like, even if they go fully intending to protest peacefully, as many I'm sure will, if anything does kick off and they're in the middle of it, well, they'll think to themselves, hang on a minute, this can be classed as a riot and they could find themselves in prison. I reckon a few people will think twice before going to this one. Second, quite a few of his supporters might already be in detention for attending the riots this summer. His pool of available nutters may be considerably smaller than in July. Third, I saw a report which suggests the Met Police have been honing in on their guidelines in terms of like arresting people at large-scale protests. The implication being that they will be more proactive in arresting certain people in future, right? Which is not great timing for Tommy Robinson. Basically, anyone turning up to this Tommy Robinson ego fest had better hope that everyone else behaves or they could be in a lot of trouble. And as even an idiot would not imagine that a Tommy Robinson fan club outing will ever behave itself, it may end up falling a bit flat. Or maybe it won't. Maybe he's still got enough supporters who didn't get caught up in the riots and are thick enough to chance their arm. Because here's where they'd have to be really thick. Think about what Robinson's claiming here, right? Tommy Robinson is claiming that the demonstration is against the tyranny of the government. The word tyranny is used. Tyranny of the government. Now, we may know this is clearly nonsense. The government are not directly involved in anything related to Tommy Robinson. It's for the police, the CPS and the courts, and they're not behaving tyrannically either. Also, the prison soon, I hope. I certainly expect. But let's say you're thick enough to believe this. You really think, actually, Keir Starmer's got this beef against Tommy Robinson. He's abusing his power as Prime Minister and blah, 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 right? That Starmer is behaving like a tyrant. Well, if you're thinking of going to this event, think what's happening from the tyrant's point of view, the tyrant in Downing Street's point of view. You're giving him weeks' notice, advance notice. So Keir Starmer knows exactly when you're going to be gathering, where you're going to be gathering. You've told him you're going to Downing Street. You're giving him all this advance notice. Wouldn't he just assemble an army of plods to wade in mob-handed, kicking the crap out of you like they did the miners in the 80s, and then chucking you in prison for the rest of your lives? Because that's what an actual tyrant in charge of the government would do. So the people that Robinson is trying to recruit here, he's trying to get this sort of balance. It's like they need to be people who lack the critical thinking to realise that this has got nothing to do with the government. The sort of people who could believe that this is a government witch hunt, right? But also so thick that they believe that this corrupt, tyrannical government is trying to put Tommy Robinson in prison, but not them. And here's the thing. There probably are people who walk that line of being just that thick who will turn up to this event. I just wonder how many. But one good thing about thick people, they're not generally very good at bringing governments down. So I'm not really sure what Robinson wants to gain here. Hopefully the judge will be extra harsh because of these antics as well. At the very least, stop letting him leave the pissing country when he's due in court. Or if they must, stop letting him back in again. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.